Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Wolves Report. I'm Ryan Lester, and thank you for joining us for episode 156. Tonight, we'll give you our summary of Wolves' glamorous 0-0 draw at Nottingham Forest. We'll talk about the player and match analysis from Wolves' 1-0 win away at Grimsby Town to put them in the fifth round of the FA Cup. We'll take some of your questions and look ahead to a tricky week against Arsenal and Crystal Palace. Delighted to be joined on this Sunday evening by our club captain, Nocky. He's not happy about a 9 o'clock show, but Wolves have won, so he's got to come on. Straight to business, Nocky. We need to go back to a slightly interesting topic in the week where it ended Nottingham Forest 0, Wolverhampton Wanderers 0.
This is a really strange game to analyse because our away record tells you that we should be quite happy with a point. I really wasn't. I was pretty furious after the game because I thought it was so gutless the way we approached it. We were just so determined not to lose the game, but we gave up something like 35 shots, didn't we? It was just there was no organisation. There didn't seem to be a pattern of play. We didn't really have an identity to us. It was a case of get the ball in the defensive areas and then just lob it as far as you can downfield, try to reset and then just defend and repeat the same cycle. And I feel harsh saying it because of the fact that we're not picking up many points, but I don't know why we got away with it. I mean, if they have Chris Wood up front as opposed to their new striker, I think that game's over very, very quickly because we gave so many opportunities. It's not like we defended well. It's not like we were solid in midfield and we were a threat up front. It just didn't work anywhere collectively, and I thought defensively we were awful. If it's not for Jose Sarr, who had an absolute blinder, there's no way we keep a clean sheet, but they were just on us all the time. It was wave after wave of attacks, and we couldn't get out. And when we did get out, we didn't have a clue what to do. We just fired it forward. I thought tactically we were all over the place. It's shifted back to the system that I think we all wanted, but we just looked so deep and so frightened and so scared to attack. It was like a non-league team going to a Premier League side in an FA Cup game and just trying to hang on in there and not get splatted. That's how it felt to me. One of the strangest performances I've ever seen. But then saying that, 92, 93 minutes, we break with a 4-on-1 and could have won the game. And if we do, you're talking about a perfect away performance, aren't you? But it was just such a frustrating afternoon. And when you're in a position we're in as well, when you know you're going to get relegated, go and try and win some games. This is one of those games you identify as a possibility for 3 points. So show a little bit of ambition, try to get at them, try to impose your style of play on things and go and try and win the game. A point here and there might get us past the derby record, but it doesn't achieve anything. So there was a lack of ambition, there was a lack of fight, there was a lack of tactical nous, and it was just an absolutely awful afternoon, even to the point where we managed to give up a 6-on-1, which should never happen in professional football.
After 31 minutes?
After 31 minutes, it's just absolutely bizarre, the whole day was.
Yeah, what was really strange to me, Nocky, great summary, by the way. What was really strange to me was the fact that Rob Edwards, I look back at Rob Edwards' pre-game interview and he's like, I know it's going to be a start. I know they're going to come at us. Well, if you know, then what are you going to do? But I think there was a real lack of bravery, particularly in our position, because we sat so deep and the difference in quality between the side in 17th and the side in 20th was enormous. Now, I don't think the gap is that big. I just think we applied ourselves tactically and physically so badly. I think 0-0 was a daylight robbery. Never mind going and pinching it. Granted, it would have been incredible in the way and people celebrating that, but it would have been an absolute stinker. I don't know how we've managed to put on such a tactically inept, players applying themselves inept, because after the game as well, Rob told me that how brave they were and they stuck together. Do you know what? I thought some of the defenders played well and I thought Jose Sarr was very good. I don't really understand how you could say anyone else was good because nobody had a proper impact on the game.
Yeah, I mean, you say the defenders played well when there's that amount of shots on your goal, and granted some of them were from a distance and they were just hopeless efforts, but we've allowed them onto our back line. Look, I'm backing Rob. I'm trying to back Rob. But performances like that make it really, really difficult to do so because you don't see what they're trying to do. I mean, I thought first 10, 15 minutes, I did expect Forest to come at us, so I was comfortable with that, even though we gave up a lot of opportunities. I thought the tactics would be you'd sit, you'd let them come onto you, you'd defend, stay in the game, and then sort of 60, 65 minutes, they're going to start really overcommitting because how important those 3 points were. That's when I expected us to step up onto them and try and break, try and use the little bit of pace we've got and maybe steal the game. But there was just no inkling we were going to do that. And we had that one attack where we did break 4-on-1, but that was really just a breakdown of their offensive play. So it was a game. It never felt like we had any ambition to win. It was just a game that we wanted to kind of just stay in there for as long as we possibly could. And I think we've got away with it in a sense because, yes, we've got a point out of the game. Forget that. I think if they do score, the absolute floodgates open. I think it's one of them games where you just need one to hit the back of the net and then you're going to have a really difficult afternoon. But they did get a point out of it. And in recent away games and recent home games, really, we've not shown signs of picking up any positive results. So you have to be happy with a point, which I would have took before the game. But just the way that it came, the level of performance, and as you rightly said, the lack of courage to go and try and win a game, it was pretty staggering, and it was just really, really disappointing.
I mean, in terms of season lows, it sounds ridiculous saying it because it's an away clean sheet. I don't think I've felt that bad after watching Wolves this season after any game of football, Nocky. That's as miserable as I felt watching that because there was literally nothing. And I couldn't see any positives other than Jose Sarr being man of the match. But that shouldn't be a positive. That shouldn't be your positive when you're away to 17th. All the pressure was on Forest. And unfortunately for us, it was only Forest that wanted to win the game. There was such a negative mindset from the off where it was like, you'd think we were a League One side playing in a quarter-final against the top Premier League side. That's how, I mean, they were very wasteful. But the stats, Nocky, 35 shots we've conceded. How on earth we walked away there with a point is incredible. So let's credit Jose Sarr, but how can it be so negative? Why did he set up like that? And why didn't we change it?
You made a great point at the start of that, actually. That's probably, if you're looking at statistic-wise and return for shots, that's probably our worst performance of the season. And we've actually picked up a point, which is in itself is pretty bizarre. I don't think
all over my love of XG, doesn't it? So
it does, but sometimes you get those games, don't you, where no matter what you do, the ball just doesn't go in the back of the net. And as much as they had us under pressure, I can think of Gibbs White's header from 3 or 4 yards out where he really should have scored. A lot of it was hopeful efforts, a little bit of desperation. So maybe you can be slightly skewed by the return in terms of shots, but it was more the lack of desire to get out that bothered me. The fact that we just were happy to reset into a shape and let them keep coming onto us. And they're not that much better than us, surely. I mean, surely we're not that bad that our only plan is to just try and lump it downfield and get away. And in terms of why didn't he change it, I don't know what he's got to really change it. He couldn't have gone back to a 4 because that would have just left us massively exposed. Personnel-wise, you're a little bit short in terms of what you can actually do. We've obviously got rid of Strand Larsen, who was a bit of a plan B, although not a very effective one this season. There wasn't a great deal he could do to change it. It's just a marker of where we are. I think at the moment is the lack of confidence in the players. I don't think they believe, because there's no way he set them up to just sit there and defend like that. Surely not. But is there a lack of belief from the players that they can be competitive at this level when you've not won an away game for a year and you've picked up 9 points all season, and you're going into a game where they've got a little bit of form about them, and even though they ended up sacking the manager, which I think is a bizarre decision, but they had a little bit of form going into it. So maybe it's just a lack of belief in ourselves, and they've took a lot of hits this season, haven't they? So when you're under the pump the way we were, maybe you do just drop into your shell a little bit and go into a little bit of a siege mentality where you just don't want to get hammered.
Yeah, just a couple of things on that, Nocky. A couple of things that really confused me was it looked to me at the start like a few people weren't playing in their natural positions. Now, for me, Armstrong, he's your fox in the box. You want to get him in and around the penalty spot at the far post, tapping, scrambling one home, getting in there. And when you're playing with a big man, you should be playing off his left or right shoulder, just playing off of the flick on or the knockdown. So when the ball gets pumped up, yeah. But for whatever reason, again, he seemed to be deployed out wide. He was coming deeper. But the problem is, if your team sits so deep, you can't go and play with the big man up front then. It needs to start with the defence being brave. And if the back three go 10 yards forward, so can the midfield and so can the forwards. And if you don't, it's going to be wave after wave. And that's why Wolves just got away with an absolute shocker. And again, we're going to talk about Grimsby later on, but there wasn't enough time in between. But this, for me, signals a great big red flag in terms of the future. Now, it's only one game, but this one game, it was a stinker knocker. And I didn't see anything tactically wise to come away with that game thinking, well, I can kind of understand this or I can kind of understand that. I'm pretty sure Angel Gomez started deeper than Joe Gomez. Armstrong was sometimes in the 10, sometimes he was left. I just didn't understand. I could understand the people picked. They seemed out of position, but there was no high line. It was literally a struggling League One side against the Premier League side in a cup game, tucking in, hoping for the best, and no real tactical plan.
I'd agree with that. And, you mentioned earlier what could he have done differently. Personnel-wise, there's not a great deal, but you can make little shifts in the game to try and make you more effective. I mean, there was a couple of occasions where Tolu did win a flick on, but he's just purely flicking it into space. There's no one running off him. I want to see people close to him because you're not giving yourself an opportunity to get up the pitch because it's just not sticking. It goes into him. He's got 2-3 defenders around him and he's going to lose the ball. And it got to the point where their defensive line was sat halfway inside our side of the pitch because they didn't need to defend. And Armstrong was very wide. And I don't think we've signed Armstrong for this season. And I think we've seen the quality he's got. There's something about him, but he's not going to impact the Premier League. He's just not. He's not that kind of player. But what you want to do is have him close to the striker because he has got a little bit of pace. He's a little bit of a ratter. He was so far away from Tolo and we had no one from the midfield supporting him. You want Mane pushing up to support in those areas. And you're right, Angel Gomez was very deep, which I didn't really understand because when he played, I think it was Chelsea, wasn't it? He was feeding nice balls in. He was feeding wide into the attacking areas and he was putting it through to the wing backs to run onto. He just gave you a little bit of space to play into. He didn't really affect the game at all. It was I don't know. I mean, has he set him up like that, or as I said earlier, is it a little bit of panic stations because we're under the pump? I'm not sure. But whatever he did didn't work, and he didn't do anything really positive to try and change the outcome.
No, it was a stinker, and as a result of that, looking at that team there, Knocker, I mean, there's very few that can come away with any credit because we played so deep. Rodrigo and Hugo were pretty much fullbacks, and for whatever reason, I mean, it didn't seem to work. I mean, I think the lineup slightly skewed there because I thought Angel Gomez was the deepest to start with Joe there, and that chemistry just didn't work. I don't recall us playing really any football. There didn't seem to be any kind of chemistry, any kind of plan. But listen, I'm not going to spend too much long on this game because I'm not going to go through the player ratings. But for me, I know we've had a pretty stinky 4 or 5 years. This felt like a real low moment for me, Knocker. This is like how fast we've fallen, how far we've fallen, and like a team that 5-6 years ago that could go toe to toe with anybody and beat most teams on their day, to a team that looked completely lost and was getting statistically pumped by a team that's probably going to get relegated with us. It was a real kick in the teeth and a real alarm moment for me for the direction of this football club.
It was, but I mean, when you look at that 11, and I know that we've got Brazilian international, we've got Uruguay at the back, we've got on paper good players, but the squad's not even on the same planet as the first squad that we were promoted with. I mean, you look at that first game against Everton when you've got Moutinho, Neves, Jota, Jimenez, Adama, players like that. They're miles apart from what we've got now. And it is a low point because I think that we're not unrealistic as Wolves supporters, are we? We don't expect our team to be in the Champions League or to be challenging for league titles in the Premiership. What you're expecting as a minimum requirement, really, is just to be competitive. And I don't think we really were competitive in that game. I don't think we've been competitive all season. And it's hard work when you're watching teams just run over you for 90 minutes and it's happening week in, week out. And it's a difficult pill to swallow when you see where we thought we were heading, the direction that we were going in 5 years ago. To see this decline, which, as we said before, we've used it frequently on the show, circling the drain. We've gone so far past that this season. It's embarrassing, to the point where we're still not sure if we're going to break Derby's record. And when you consider we were 7th in consecutive seasons, got to a FA Cup semi-final and a Europa League quarter-final, to go from that to just battling to try and get 12 points is just a hell of a drop.
Yeah, it's an absolute stinker. Gaz Wolves 2682 says we look like a punch-drunk boxer taking paydays in his 40s. Now, I don't know if he's talking about the host of the Wolves Report or the football team. Maybe both are applicable. I don't know. But Gaz, thank you for being part of the Wolves Report. Yeah, it was a low point for me, Nocky. 3,000 fans in the away end. I'm not saying go gung-ho. I'm not saying let's go for it and lose 5-2 or something crazy like that. I'm saying we need to be a bit more tactically astute. We need to play players in their best positions. I like Tolu, and I think he would be good in the Championship. Will he be there or not? I don't know. But a player like Tolu needs someone close to him. You need 2 number 10s or like a fox in the box next to him. And we're not doing that. And for me, when you've got when you're defending with a back 5 and a midfield 3, it's almost unforgivable. You've not got that sort of little fox playing off him, because you're going to get the best out of Tolu and you're going to create opportunities. But we've not seen that, and it was, for me, the low point of the season. Now that might sound strange because of some of the poor performances, Nocky, but in terms of seeing fight, seeing organisation, seeing shape, seeing hope, seeing anything at all other than Jose Sarr, it was an absolute stinker. This is episode 156 of the Wolves Report. Nocky, what did you say? One more thing on Forest?
Yeah, I just think we're looking for something to hold on to, aren't we? I mean, when you're having a season like this, you want a couple of memories to take with you. We know, we're all realistic enough to know where we're going to end up at the end of this season. But if you go there and maybe you beat Gibbs White in the last game that you're going to play there for a while, and you maybe give yourself something just to hold on to take with you to the Championship, and we've just not got anything at all, have we? I mean, I expect us to go through the season without winning away from home. I think maybe we've got 1 win in us, 2 at absolute most going forward. So you just want something.
3, I think we can win the FA Cup then. Would that not work out?
Well, let's see. 1 round at a time. But I just think you want something just to take with you, don't you? I mean, you've got your memories of following Wolves are those individual days, not a collective season, and we just haven't got anything at all this season. It's been the whole season's been a low point. But I completely agree. That performance where we're so badly outplayed, so badly outworked, outfought. They're fitter than us. They're quicker than us. They've got more energy, got better movement. When you're in a game like that, it really kind of hits home just how bad your team has actually become.
Just one point there that you want to pick up on, Nocky, and something that I'm a big fan of. I love mobile footballers and pace. We seem to me like one of the slowest teams at the moment. When do we get a player that's able to drive past 1 or 2 players? Even I know our fastest player, he's pretty fast. Doesn't always take the ball with him, granted. But you look across the team everywhere elsewhere, who's really that quick? Rodrigo's busy. Is he that quick? Hugo, reasonable, but he's not going to fly past anybody. There's no one else in that team who has proper pace. And because of that, if you're tucking in like we did at Forest, we can't get out. And for me, again, this just highlights an absolute stinky recruitment sort of section in the summer when how can you get out? I mean, unless you have very, very technical players, we haven't got that. Or you need lots of pace and a couple of players that can run with the ball. We haven't got that. I mean, it's a catastrophic fall and disaster in the summer, not to replace any of those footballers. But this is episode 156 of the Wolves Report with Nocky and myself, Ryan Lester. A quick shout out to everyone listening and catching up so far. Trying to expand the show across all formats. If you don't follow us on Spotify, drop us a follow on there. The same goes with X, Facebook and YouTube. If you're on any of those platforms, each follow, it helps us grow the show and keep moving forward. It's very much appreciated. Today, Sunday, Nocky, Wolverhampton Wanderers went to the mud pit that is at Grimsby Town. It looked like a possible banana skin. We thought it might be a banana skin, but I have to credit Wolves for showing some real guts today. Technically, I'm not sure there was a lot of talent on either side on display, but Wolves probably just had about the more guts to get over the line. But your take on Grimsby Town 0, Wolverhampton Wanderers 1?
I've seen a fair few people who were quite frustrated with the performance and almost a little bit angry with it. I was actually okay with it. You look at that pitch. I mean, that pitch was a disgrace, really, wasn't it? And it's like a throwback to, I remember it was John the Wolf scored a hat trick against Port Vale. It was that kind of pitch where it was just boggy. It was just, the grass was long that was there. There was mud poles everywhere. So that's a really difficult pitch to play football on. And you could see that with the amount of shots that were actually on target. I think we both had one each. But I thought we managed the game relatively well. We limited them to one really good effort in the first half, which just fizzed wide of the post. And then a fantastic tackle by Santi Bueno, I thought was excellent, to keep him out in injury time. Other than that, they didn't really have anything. And it's a difficult game to play. I mean, Man United lost there earlier on in the season. They would have absolutely fancied that against us, because you're playing a team bottom of the Premier League. They're on a decent run, so they'd have fancied it. But I thought we equipped ourselves well. We were very solid. We quietened the crowd down very quickly. We tried to keep possession where we could, and we did try to play football. But on that pitch, you're never going to get your players in behind. There just isn't it's too heavy. You haven't got the facilities to do that. So I thought we managed the game quite well. Created one big opportunity, which we scored. And then we saw the game out relatively comfortably after that. I didn't see too much from Grimsby, and I do think if that was a better pitch, I think Wolves probably would have won by a couple of goals, because it did feel like we had an element of control in the game. So I was generally very pleased. It's a massive banana skin. There was a reason it was on telly at that time, is because the TV expected Wolves to get knocked out of the cup. We were solid, we were resolute. There was some real battling performances from the players, and we came through what was a very, very difficult challenge, and we're in the hat for the next round. So I'm generally very pleased with that performance.
Just in terms of cup performance, Nocky, it doesn't matter how good or bad you play. If you are the winning team, whether it's extra time, whether it's normal time, whether it's penalties, you've succeeded in your task. If we were analysing the game today on ability and fluency and entertainment, it might be a different thing. But we talked about this being a potential banana skin, but they overcome that. Now, Rob Edwards has said a lot different to what we've kind of said recently. And I don't think there's been a particularly huge amount of guts and fight. I didn't think that was the case today. I thought Wolves matched Grimsby for a fight. I think Grimsby left a few tackles in there. That's the way they're going to play. That's fine. That's up to them. But I thought Wolves matched that today, and I thought they earned the right to go and win that game with the way they did.
Yeah, and I completely agree. It doesn't matter how you get through. It's about getting through and not being embarrassed. And you look at Burnley, they were a goal up to a Mansfield side who aren't doing particularly well, and then end up losing the game. So you've got to beat what's in front of you, and we managed to do that. You can pick the bones out of the performance. The pitch was a massive equaliser. I really do believe that, because it was so heavy and so laboured that you couldn't really get any kind of shape going. But we found a way to win the match, and that's all I care about. Any kind of win is a positive lift for the club, and it's something the players absolutely need. So a lot of people will be frustrated by the performance, but I'd rather be frustrated and win 1-0 than play some lovely football and get banged out on penalties. So for me, I've got nothing really to complain about with this performance, especially with the pitch. If it was a nice even pitch and we'd have played poorly and only managed one shot against a League Two side, then maybe it's a different conversation. But I think you've got to look at the pitch and assess it for what it is. It is a huge equaliser. It does bring everything closer together, and we managed to manage those conditions really well. So I'm very pleased.
Yeah, as long as we get through that's the main thing. There's a few people raised. Let's talk about it now. Actually, there's a few people raised some questions regarding the playing service knocking. I think this is quite important. I don't think, this is a really good point here. Drew says, if Wolves were fighting for Champions League as opposed to being destined for relegation, do you think they would have still deemed that pitch as playable? If that was a Champions League game, that game is not going ahead. Not a chance. Now, we've both played football on Sunday League at some stage, knocking a little bit here and there. And that's pretty much what it was from November to February, wasn't it? That was just like the way it was. And that, to be honest, is when we were growing up watching football, how pitches looked. But football's very different now. And again, I might have become soft in my old age watching the games go by, Nocky, but I was actually surprised that game went ahead, because it's not the early 90s. It's not Derby away. How you loved it, Steve Ball hat trick. It's not that. Modern football's changed, and every team now, regardless, you look at Solihull Moors, they've all got really good pitch surfaces. Today, I think that game was fortunate to go ahead, and I've got to be honest, in terms of modern football, I think it might have been a little bit dangerous.
Yeah, I think you've gone soft. I'm all for it. Genuinely, I'm all for it. Look, the amount of money we've got in the Premier League, any Premier League team should be able to play in any conditions and beat a League Two side. And if we want League Two to be able to ensure their pitches are of high quality, let's filter more money down from the Premier League, down the rest of the football pyramid to support them. I think if I'm a Grimsby fan, I want that pitch as wet as possible. I want it boggy. I want the grass to be as high as they can legally make it in terms of the game. And you make it as awkward as you can for a bunch of pampered Premier League teams coming down, don't you? I've got no problem with the pitch. I don't think it was particularly dangerous. There were some boggy areas, but it was more mud kicking up. I don't think it wasn't ditches they were running into. There wasn't ankle turners there. It just felt like a very muddy, very.
At some point, I couldn't see the players' ankles. They'll get in the area. I mean, yes, it's a great leveler for any football team. I think some of those players would have never seen that kind of those conditions before, played in that bad. I just do think, with how good the pitches have gone and how far the game has moved on, I do think it's very fortunate, because the ball's supposed to run. In some areas, it wasn't running. And granted, there is that little bit of jeopardy when a player kicks it forward and it stops and he runs past and they counter. It's entertainment. It's a leveler. I just think it was really, really. If it wasn't on TV, I'm not sure if that game would have made it.
But that's what the cup's all about, isn't it? I mean, those are the memories of the cup, those sort of occasions. And if they beat us, I don't think anyone's particularly moaning about the pitch. I think it's just another giant killing. I get your point, and maybe I was surprised you risked Mane and players like that because of the fact that the pitch was very heavy and very boggy, and maybe you do risk players slightly. But I think it's the FA Cup. I don't want to get in a position where we're calling games off for that. I personally think it's right to go ahead. I think you just suck it up, you get on with it. I mean, when we were younger, the teams had turned the heating off in the away dressing room and the hot water and things like that. You've got to use everything you've got to your advantage when you're coming up against a squad of Premier League players. I mean, we know we're not a particularly good Premier League side, but if you put us in League Two, we'd absolutely walk that league with this squad of players. So you've got to do everything you can to try and level things out, and a pitch like that is exactly what they needed. So I get your point, but for me, that's the FA Cup. You've got to suck it up and get through it, and that's what we did. And that'll do them good psychologically to get through a game like that as well. And so, yeah, for me, I'm all for it.
Drew, thank you for being part of the latest Wolves report. Similar to what Cole's saying, what is your opinion on the muddy pitch? Should they be allowed to be played on that? Just on that subject still, Nocky, I mean, if anyone can answer in the questions in the comments, that'd be great as well. When was the last time Wolves played a game when the pitch looked like that? I was thinking about this earlier on, looking at it. I can't remember.
The only one I could think worse than that was Port Vale away when we beat them, was it 3-1 and the Wall Factory? That was really bad.
That was 4-1, and that was 1996.
I remember us playing. I remember us playing at Warsaw when they stuck a load of barrels on the pitch and set them on fire to try and defrost it. That was a little bit of a dangerous pitch. It was commonplace, wasn't it? Really, I mean, the 90s when we were watching football, it was commonplace to have pitches like that. You never really batted an eyelid, did you? I remember, I think it was at Blackpool. We went there one year and they just filled all the holes on the pitch full of sand. It was just, you just found ways around it. So we've been in the Premier League a long time and we've been in the Championship a long time. You don't really get pitches like that in the first and second tier, do you? But down the leagues, when you get heavy weather the way we've had it, I mean, it's rained every day this year, hasn't it? So when you get that kind of weather, some pitches are going to struggle in the lower leagues. They haven't got the facilities or the capacity to protect the pitches in the way that we can. So you just got to deal with it.
Yeah, you just got to. Cole, thanks so much for being part of the latest Wolves report. That away in today, Nocky. I mean, I saw Steve Ball get a hat-trick there. I don't know if he was there that day.
I was there for that. Brilliant.
Steve Froggatt with the most incredible 3 assists. Just, yeah, absolutely fantastic. So credit to all the Wolves fans that went down there today. But actually, saying that though, Nocky, the pitch doesn't actually look bad. We've had from that angle, we've made ourselves look a bit daft and I look a bit soft. But back onto the performance and the game itself. Started off, actually thought Grimsby probably started a little bit better, but there was sort of nerves kicking in. But then it turned into a proper battle. And I was kind of dreading that today, Nocky. I thought if it does get slide tackle, muddy, late tackle, pulling, all that kind of stuff, I thought Wolves might get done today. But I was pleasantly surprised by the amount of guts they showed.
It was set up for a giant killing, wasn't it? It just had banana skin written all over it. But yeah, we got through it. That was the key. It wasn't pretty. Obviously you want to go to places and slap everyone 4-0, but it just doesn't happen when you're in our situation. But they got through it. They found a way to win the game. It's back-to-back clean sheets in the league and cup, and you've got to take the positives where you can.
I think that sounds better than it really is, though, doesn't it?
It is, but it's still a fact, isn't it? We've still kept clean sheets in our last 2 games, so you maybe give yourself a little bit of a foothold defensively. We got through it. That's all it is. We got through the game. We got the win. We've come home with our name in the hat for the next round. You've just got to take the positives out of it, and there are positives to take. And if it's a clean cut playing field, I think the game's a better spectacle for everybody. But when it's on a pitch like that, you've just got to find a way to get through the match, and we did it. So I'm comfortable.
Absolutely. I've not read what he's saying here, but I'm going to click on this anyway. So it says, Nocky, your brain is already sublimely accepted the reality that we are somewhere between a second division and a lower half championship team. So, yeah, I don't know if that's a compliment or not. I don't know.
I think I've accepted relegation. I mean, I think you'd be a little bit excitable if you haven't. Where we are after that that's in the lap of the gods, isn't it? That's all about recruitment and what the plan of action is. But I think you've got to have a reality about where we are as a club, and I've still got lovely memories of being in the lower league, so we'll embrace it wherever we end up.
It would just be nice to win a few football games again, because I know sort of we talk on the way home from football, and we talk like on the WhatsApp group chat and talking about the podcast and the games. It's the same conversation over and over again. I just hope we can win a couple of games next season. I mean, it won't be so bad if we win the FA Cup, but there we go. Let's move on to the team, Nocky. As you mentioned today, it was a surprise to me that Matheus Mane started. I didn't think he'd start today. He did. It's not a pitch set up for a player who runs through the middle of the park taking people on. It did, to me, look like a game that was more suited to Andre and Joe Gomez. However, Nocky, starting 2 holding midfielders against Grimsby Town raised a few eyebrows, but you could say that's been justified because Wolves got a clean sheet and they're in the hat.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have liked to have seen Bellegarde in that position, but with his injuries, I don't think you could risk him on a heavy pitch that early on. I know he got some minutes towards the end, so he was a little bit stuck. You could have gone Andre and Gomez, but you want someone to try and unlock that back line because you know they're going to be very solid in their shape and they're going to sit quite deep. So I get why you played him, but I just think on a pitch like that, because the pictures don't look too bad, but you could see the goal mouth and the centre circle and that kind of area between the centre circle and the penalty area.
The ball wasn't rolling in some areas.
No.
It would just stick and you're done then.
That was your boggy bits, and that's where Matheus Mane is going to take up most of his space, isn't it? So I understand why he played him. I didn't think he would. I understand why he played him, because we've just got a lack of options. I think if we'd have had Bellegarde maybe a couple of weeks further on, he probably starts him in Mane's position. But he's a little bit stuck at the minute.
Yeah, let's just talk about the goal before we go through the team. I was quite pleased with this. And at the time, it looked like Santi had put on a worldly volley into the top corner. Not quite sure that's how it showed in excuse me, in real time. But credit to Joe Gomez. He's one of the holding midfielders. He's got forward to the right-hand side. He's put a lovely ball in. Somehow Santi's found himself still up there and he's managed to delicately guide it home into the top corner, Nocky.
I mean, he started from Yerson Mosquera, who's got the worst long throw in the history of football.
Some questions about that later on, so we'll talk about his throwing in a bit.
But he's banged that one in the box, and then it's bobbled around, hasn't it? Decent effort. I think it was Tolo who hit it, and he bobbles through. And it's a decent ball by Gomez. And it's not the most clinical finish, but I think he's just got anything on it that he could, and it's flown in the top corner, hasn't it? So it's a good move after we've recycled the ball, and a great ball in by Gomez. He's finished it, hasn't he? That's the only thing that matters.
Caught me with the mouthful of wine, and I do apologise. I thought you were going to talk a little bit longer.
Sorry.
That's okay. This is episode 156 of the Wolves Report with Ryan, Ryan's Wine, and Nocky, and now his glass of water. Nocky, answer your question quick. Let's go through the team then, starting with Sam Johnson.
He did okay. Sorry, mate. He did okay. There was one moment where he kind of bounced off him and went out for a corner that was unnecessary, but I think that's probably the pitch. The ball will be like a bar of soap when it's covered in mud like that. Didn't have a great deal to do. As I said, there was one piece wide of him. There was a couple of balls in the box that he dealt with relatively well. I don't think he did a great deal wrong, to be honest, but I don't think he was particularly well tested. He was protected by the back line well. So, yeah, he did everything he needed to do. His kicking's better than Jose Sarr's. We all know that, but its shot stopping's maybe questionable between him and Sarr. Sarr probably just edges that, but he did everything right today. No complaints.
I did think it was a risk that he rotated a few players today, because if you get this wrong and you lose to Grimsby, I don't think there's any way back for the manager. But you know what? He did it and we won, so it's hard to complain. Regardless of how ugly the game was, the manager got it right. Still with us says, I recommend listening to Wolves rather than watching them. Again, this is a comment that could apply to the Wolves Report podcast or to Wolverhampton Wanderers. I don't know what he's referring to, but I think it's applicable to both. Still with us, thank you for being a regular contributor to the Wolves Report. Nocky, moving on to the back three. Yerson Mosquera gets a yellow card. Surprise, surprise. But I wouldn't be without Yerson Mosquera. Wolves are rubbish, but he provides some alternative entertainment. And as annoying as he is, and as much chaos as he causes, he's fun to watch.
He is fun to watch, but there's a couple of moments he's got to get out of his system. He just hits the deck far too often. He did it when we were under pressure on the left wing, hit the deck, the ref didn't give the foul, and then they come away charging towards our penalty area, and then he's up and he's charging in rather than just seeing the ball out in the first place. So he is entertaining. I do like having him in the side, but there's elements to his game that he's got to work on. I don't think you're ever going to get him out of his system, but you've just got to understand the where and when to do certain things. Like last week when he decked the Chelsea striker in the penalty area for no reason at all. He's just got to get those kind of mad moments out of him. But defensive wise, I think he's been okay. And again, he did everything he needed to do today, but he wasn't hugely tested by Grimsby because they were very much just trying to get the ball wide and throw it into the box as often as they could, and we dealt with that pretty well.
Moving on to Ladislav Kretschly, who I thought was solid enough, Nocky. I think having a left footer on the left side of the back three is so important because it gives you that natural get out of jail ball where you can ping it to Moller Wolf or hit it hard and it goes to Armstrong. I think that having that natural player there, and again, difficult conditions. I mean, he's an international footballer, so I've got little sympathy with many of them for that. But again, I thought he stood up to the physical battle quite well. He's
a good player, isn't he? He's definitely got the most amount of quality in that back line. And he was comfortable, he was tidy, didn't do anything wrong, solid performance.
Moving on to the, I think he was the TV man of the match, Santiago Bueno. Got a question about Santiago Bueno a little bit later on, so I won't talk too much now. But this is another solid game from Santiago. No fuss, not spectacular. You don't notice him making mistakes. You don't notice him doing brilliant things. But he did put a fantastic last-minute tackle in to keep the game at 1-0.
We've said it before, haven't we? He just never lets you down. He just comes in, he does his job. He's a 7 out of 10 man every week. But today I thought he was probably 8 or 9 out of 10 for that performance. He was really good. He was the best of the back three. It is a scruffy goal, but he has to be there to finish it, and he was. And then that last-minute tackle, he's got no right getting there. The lad's just striking the ball into the bottom corner. You expect he's probably going to score from there. And his leg just comes from absolutely nowhere to deflect that. And that's as good as a goal because more likely than not, that's going to hit the back of the net. So excellent performance from him. I thought he was the best player on the pitch by some distance today.
And let's not forget his wonderfully guided lower knee volley into the top corner for the winning goal as well.
They all count.
Absolutely. 2 players I predicted would start in the team lineup with a couple of reasons. Because mainly, one, I knew Grimsby would physical. The other wing backs are a little bit more slight than Jackson and Moller Wolf. I think both of them are quite. I think Moller Wolf's not far off 6 foot. Jackson's not a small guy either, as in comparison to Hugo Bueno and probably Rodrigo. Boggy pitch. I think this was a smarter decision from the manager. And again, I know we're playing Grimsby, and I don't want to be disrespectful, but you should be winning that game. These are 2 players I expected to start today for those reasons. big, strong guys that can head the ball, that can get up and down, and they did their jobs. It wasn't spectacular, but they both did play their part.
Yeah, I like Muller Wolf's performance. I thought he was pretty good. He was solid on that side, and he's a good second choice on that side. I don't think he gets in ahead of Bueno for me, but I think he's a good option to have there. Jackson again was quite frustrating. I want to see him take his man on, even on a pitch like that. You've got enough space behind to really knock it past him and just run. And the one time he got into that position where you thought he was going to do it, he just checks back inside and plays back into the midfield. And it's so frustrating when you know you've got that pace. But he did his defensive duties well. No real complaints about his performance. I just want to see him be a little bit more ambitious. Just believe in yourself and believe in your pace and go and try and take your man on a little bit more. If you roast him once, you're already in his head and he's going to drop back 5-10 yards every time you're coming at him. Just gives him a strategic advantage. But he just seems so hesitant to try and take his man on. It's very frustrating when that's your main weapon.
What I don't understand about Chachwa Noki is his reluctancy to take someone on, because he's clearly very fit. He's clearly very fast. And I actually think he can cross a half-decent football. His passing lets him down a little bit, and positionally lets himself down, but he gets himself out of trouble with pace. When we see him take a player on, quite often he'll win a corner, and that's good enough for me to get us up the pitch. It's almost like, for me, Noki, unless he's guaranteed to get past his man, there's an instruction to start again and be patient.
But he only seems to do it when the fans are on him. When the fans are really baying for him to do it, is when he feels like, okay, maybe I should do it now and take his man on. And 9 times out of 10, he gets there, and he either, like you say, he wins a corner or he gets the ball in the box. I don't see it as an instruction. I don't see why you would take that Arsenal away from your team. It just makes no sense, especially when you've got a 6-foot-plus player in Tolo waiting to try and head that ball in. So if I'm Edwards, I want that ball in behind. I want that ball from Gomez playing in between the centre-back and the full-back every single time to get him in behind, because that's where you're going to get your joy. And Edwards is a player who likes delivering balls into the box from wide positions. So I don't see it as an instruction. I just think it's just a lack of confidence and a lack of belief. And the problem is when we signed him, it's not his fault, but he wasn't first choice. I very much doubt if he was second or third choice. He's probably our 4th or 5th choice player to come in that position. So he's not the level we wanted him to be at. So it's not his fault that he's not capable of doing it, but it is his fault that he's not ambitious enough to try it. I just want to see him believe in himself, because there's clearly a very, very good deliverer of a ball and a very pacey player there. If that's what you've got in your arsenal, go and use it.
Yeah, we're not expecting anything spectacular. And I think there is a rapid footballer that's very fit. I just really wish we could drum into more to use him properly, because Moller Wolf's more the steady Eddie. He's probably a more accomplished footballer, yet he's not particularly quick in either direction. Jackson has the less talent, but he's absolutely rapid. Moving on to the centre midfield, 2 holding midfielders with Andre and Joe Gomez. A bit of criticism in terms of the team selection. Fans were criticising that we're going to Grimsby with 2 holders. But again, with the thinking of Moller Wolf and Chachwa and a really muddy pitch, it probably turned out to be the right decision.
Yeah, I like Gomez, but I think he's trying too hard at the moment. He seems to be just trying too much rather than doing the simple stuff. He did get an assist for the goal, and it was a good ball into the box. It just feels a bit reckless at the moment, the way he's playing. Andre was pretty solid, sat a little bit deeper and tried to dictate play a bit. Didn't do a great deal wrong, so it was a relatively good performance. But that's a difficult area of the pitch to play, especially when you're playing on that kind of surface. And we got through it, didn't we? And we did win the midfield battle, which is obviously really important in a game like this.
Moving on to Mateus Mane Noki. As I said, we mentioned at the start, I didn't think this was a game for Mateus. He's someone at the moment that gives us a bit of excitement. He was good at Man City. He can do things against any team. His strength for an 18-year-old is phenomenal. We've seen 2 fantastic goals. But in a mud bath, for me, this probably wasn't the right decision. But a manager backing his young 18-year-old to go into what something's going to be not a bloodbath, but a mud bath, that's confidence by Edwards in the player himself.
It is. I mean, I don't think he really affected the game much today. And he's become a target now, hasn't he? Teams are doubling up on him. They're trying to get close to him. They're shutting down the space around him. And I think that he's paying a price for that at the moment. But he's clearly a very talented player with a massive future in the game. we just got to figure out how best to use him in our squad. But a game like this, I completely agree, wasn't the right game for him. But we've won it, haven't we? So he's played his part.
It's always difficult to criticise a manager or anybody when you've won, regardless of the opposition. But yeah, I wouldn't have played him today, but I don't care. Wolves are through. Knock it onto the forward two, Tolo and Adam Armstrong.
Thought Armstrong had a really good chance when the keeper played it straight to him, snatched at that one.
Hit the target. Got to hit the target.
Yeah, you've got to hit the target, and he had enough time to do that. You could tell he snatched at it. It's hard to. He didn't really get in the game, did he? He didn't really affect things too much. He was busy. He was an option. He was getting himself into space where he could, but that relationship with Tolo is just not there yet. Tolo is flicking balls on, but Armstrong isn't finding them. They haven't quite connected that sort of link between the two. I'm not going to be too critical because the games he's had have been really difficult games for us, and it's going to take him time to really find his feet. And he wasn't free scoring for Southampton when we signed him, so we've not signed a player who's on really, really good form. So it is going to take a little bit of time. But he was busy and he worked hard, and he did get himself into positions. Tolu, difficult game for him. We weren't able to really get the ball into him, and when we did, as we said, there was nothing really around him to hit. So again, he worked hard, but just had no impact on the game. Never looked like he was going to score, really.
Yeah, granted, again, we won. It doesn't really matter. That was all. The aim was today, avoid defeat, be in the FA Cup draw at 6:30 on Monday, whatever channel it's on. That's what we did. It felt like at Forest, we're not using Tolo properly. We're not using Adam and Armstrong properly. If that's your pair, get them playing close together, because if you play them close together, you'll draw the centre-backs in, you'll open space up elsewhere for Mane to run into, and our width should come from Moller, Wolf and Chachua today. I just don't think we're using them forwards properly, Knocky. Again, it doesn't matter because we won, but Tolo, for me, you can see, I think he's pretty decent at linking the play, but how can he be decent in making the most of him when no one's anywhere near him?
But we don't cross the ball, do we? We don't get wide and really lump it in the box, and we don't play to his feet. We're looking to hit him aerially. I don't think they know what to do with him at the moment. I don't think they know how to play off him. And I do want to. I think if you can get Armstrong and Mane close to him and almost have them as a bit of a three when you're attacking, you just give him something to play off, and it can be a little bit of a pass and move and try and drop into space. The minute he just feels so isolated, even with Armstrong there, because we're really pulling Armstrong wide, and that's leaving Tolo on his own. And Tolo hasn't got the pace to really turn and burst in behind you. So you're not going to get the best out of him if you're not playing to his strengths. It's difficult because the games that we're playing at the moment are against teams like Chelsea, who are high impact, high pace, and just slaughter you. And then we had Forest away where we couldn't get out, and then we've obviously played today where it's an awful pitch. So it's maybe a little bit harsh being critical at this point. But I just want to see us be more effective and use him the right way, as opposed to just thumping the ball 40 yards at field and asking him to do something with it. That's just not his game.
Well, here, let's be really honest. If you're a Wolves fan and you've watched both games in the last week, your entertainment factor has not been up there. I mean, it's 2 clean sheets, Knocky, but it has been a struggle for the purists this week. If you want football, then Wolverhampton Wanderers are maybe not the club for you. This is episode 156 of the Wolves Report. Knocky and myself, Ryan Lester. I wanted to bring a comment on from Roger. Thought we deserve far more credit than we are getting. Today was never going to be a classic, but job done in 2 games from a Wembley appearance. Could it happen? Yes, it actually could, with a bit of luck if the draw favours us. It's not often we're positive recently, Knocky, but I like Roger's belief, and he's saying what he's saying is actually true, because if Wolves do get the luck of the draw, then that's certainly an opportunity. Are Wolves going to win the FA Cup? Probably not. But do you know what? I'd quite like a distraction of going to Wembley for the day. So we have to take this really seriously, and with a bit of luck, that could probably happen. I
think he's bang on. I do think we deserve more credit than we're getting. And United came here and fell away. So we've come here and we've done the job against the team who really would have fancied it against us. You can only beat what's in front here, and we managed to do that. So I'm really pleased with how we approached the game and what we did. And you know, you've still got teams in that competition that you would fancy us to beat. If you could maybe get a Mansfield at home or a Wrexham, perhaps you'd fancy that. Anyone in the lower league, you give yourself a chance, and that's all we can do at this stage. If a draw's kind, maybe we do get a semi-final, maybe we get a trip to Wembley just to wave the league off with. But we've got nothing else to really play for, have we? So you might as well have a go at it.
And again, Knocky, I know we joked at the start of the season, but we all said we'd take relegation if we winning the FA Cup, and the dream is still very much alive. Roger, as always, thank you for being part of the Wolves Report. We are at episode 156. We are 50 minutes in. It's almost Nockie's bedtime, so let's talk through a few questions before we preview the two games. A few people have mentioned this. Borley has said, can we talk about our throw-ins? Absolutely, we can. And Greg also says, discuss the Mosquera long throw. Now, we didn't need any snow on the pitch today. But if he could put some more distance and a little less height on those throw-ins, you see other teams launching up and cranking the arms back and firing it into lap style. We've got the only guy that does some kind of shot put throw. I mean, is he the only guy that can throw the ball long? Did Moller Wolf throw in one late on that was actually reasonable? Or maybe you can put that in the comments. But what's annoying is, Nocky, the guy that can throw the ball long is actually the guy we want doing the flick-ons. So there's not really a lot happening, is there?
It's an awful throw-in. I mean, it goes up 30 foot before it goes forward. It's just... It's so easy to read as well. I mean, if you remember when Delap, and I know no one launches them in like Delap, but they came in flat. They came in with pace, and it was so hard to adjust to them. You've got probably 10, 15 seconds of just watching this ball disappear around orbit.
Wasted 20 minutes. Maybe that was the game.
You can read it, and you've got Tolu at the near post who's going to try and flick it on, but they can read the trajectory. He's got 2 or 3 players around him. It's just
hard to flick on a ball that's coming in like that as well.
Yeah,
you need a bit more zip on it.
Yeah, you want to be able to, you almost want it like a corner where you can kind of dart in and make a bit of space just to try and get that flick on. It takes that long to arrive, and half the time it only makes it to the edge of the area anyway. So I don't know. I would rather see us, if we've got no one who can throw it better than Mosquera, I'd rather see us play it into feet and just try and swing the ball in the box, because it is dreadful. Although saying that, it played a part in the goal today, didn't it? So I don't know, what do I know? But I just think it's such a poorly distributed throw, and you see other players do it and it comes right in on the goalkeeper. It comes right to the edge of the 6-yard box and it causes a bit of chaos. We just don't get anywhere near it. It's just a dreadful throwing.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love us to score from one from next week just to sort of make it worthwhile, but we're the only team that launches it into orbit and it comes back down. Really bizarre, but it's the fashionable thing at the moment, and if he's the guy that can throw it the longest, then so be it. I think we've talked about the pitch. Let's try and end on a bit of positivity, Nocky. Ben says, Santi Bueno, player of the season, discussed for me. He's been professional throughout and he goes about his game. He always shows up when selected. He doesn't moan and does the basics right. Again, as we talked about in our player ratings, it's a great question, by the way, Ben. Thank you for being part of the show. He never really stands out for being brilliant. He never stands out for being bad. He doesn't really make mistakes. He doesn't really make things happen. He's I think you said it a few months ago, maybe Tyler did. He's like Kevin Foley-esque, isn't he? He drops in the 7 out of 10. He's never the best player. He's never the worst player. Probably was the best player today, and he got a goal on top. For me, Nocky, as well, isn't this a player? Again, Wolves are getting relegated, so it's hard to get excited on it. But this is a player that Gary O'Neill said wasn't strong enough and pretty much wasn't up to it. But he's slowly becoming Wolves' most reliable defender. And I would love him to be in the middle of our championship defence next season.
I would as well, but he's an international, isn't he? I think we may struggle to keep hold of him. Yeah, I mean, Gary O'Neill wasn't a big fan. I think that we always had a little bit of a question mark over his physicality when he first came into the side. And if Wolves are sat in mid-table now, he probably isn't in our team, because I think we would have looked to upgrade him. But he's just a player that never lets you down. He's calm. He doesn't seem to make mistakes. If he gets beat, he gets beat, but it's not through his own lack of ability. It's more that he's just been done by something clever. He's a bit of a calming presence in that back line. And in terms of player of the season, I'm struggling to see anybody above him at the moment. I think is he joint top scorer? I know he's got 3 goals this season.
I mean, I don't know if that's a highlight or a low light, but it's not great. But
he fits in, doesn't he? And he's a player that just doesn't let you down. He's a player that's always available. He's always willing. He works hard. He doesn't lose his head in the way that Mosquera does. You don't see the frustrations that you see from João Gomez. He just knows what his job is and he does it to the best of his ability. So I agree at this moment in time. I don't see a player who's been more consistent than Santi. Even though we've conceded a load of goals, it's very difficult to attribute many of them to him, really. I think he's just been there in a collective back line that hasn't been good enough. But I think he's not let us down at any point.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I like Santi. At the start of the season, again, I was like, well, he's probably out. He's not the quickest, but he has a football brain. He's never really messed up in possession. He just keeps it simple, doesn't he? If he needs to get rid, he gets rid. If the pass is on, he finds the pass. He's just a steady Eddie. So yeah, Ben, thank you for being part of the show. Wednesday evening at Molineux, Wolverhampton Wanderers face Premier League favourites Arsenal. And off Facebook, Paul Bradley asks, how many will Arsenal score if we give them 35 shots like Forest? Now,
35 goals, I would have thought.
So if we lose 35-0, Nocky, I will pay for your season ticket next year. I'll be really upset about it now, but because I won't be able to afford to pay for my own. So Wednesday night, this brings us in. This is a really, really tough game. It's a free hit. Now, I kind of want us to approach it how we approached the Forest game, but that means 35 shots, and that probably means you get pumped. So where's the middle ground, Nocky, for Wednesday night? Because you need to get out. You need to get out ball. Now, the fullbacks push on. How do you approach that game?
I think you approach it similarly to Forest, but you use the ball better. So I think defensively we had a shape and we had an organisation, but it's when we got the ball, we didn't recycle it very well. We just launched it as far away and tried to get back into that shape. I think you've got to be a little bit braver in possession and try and get Armstrong closer to Tolo and just get it to stick a little bit up there. Because at the moment, if we put ourselves in a position where we just keep giving them the ball back, they're going to keep coming at you, and they've got players of real quality who can unlock any defence. We've just got to keep our shape. We've got to be solid, but just have a little bit of bravery and try and get out when you can. I'm really worried about this one. I've said all along, I think there's one game this season where we're going to get a really, really bad hiding, and I'm worried it could be this one. The only kind of saving grace is that they've had a lot of football, so I do think if they could get a few goals up, they might take their foot off a little bit. But if they decide to go for the throat, then this could be a really long evening for us.
But this is the same Arsenal that we equalised at in the last minute, played very well. And I'm not saying we should have definitely got something from that game, but we had a shape against Arsenal. We played really well. We have proven before we started messing around with the team and dropping people who didn't need to, that we are capable. Do I expect Wolves to lose on Wednesday night? Do I expect to lose comfortably? Yeah. But Nocky, we went to Arsenal away. We gave them a proper game. Why can't we do that again?
We did give them a proper game, but I do think that was as much that they expected to just turn up and beat us as opposed to us being really good on the day. But we were good on the day. We did play well. We had a good shape, a good system. We were organised. We were quite brave. And on another day, yeah, we would have got our point, and I think we would have deserved it for the way we approached the game. Can we do that again against this side? Are they going to approach it again the same way? Because they know how we're going to play, and Arteta's going to look for ways to try and bring us out. I think the key to this one is you go in 15-minute increments. You've got to get through the first 15 minutes without conceding. You've got to get through to 30 without conceding. Then if you can get through to half time, you've got something to hold on to. If we're a goal down in the first 15 minutes of the game, we're not going to come out and play, but what it is going to do is create just a little bit more space in behind us. And that's going to be a huge, huge problem for us. So it's about just being as solid as we possibly can. I don't want to say damage limitation because I want us to be a little bit more ambitious, but I don't see any possible way that Wolves can get anything out of this game. I just think they are far too good for us, and they'll be better than us all over the pitch. So you've just got to hold on for as long as you can, and hopefully it's not an embarrassing evening, which sounds horrible because it's at our home ground, isn't it? We used to take on teams like this, and we used to believe we could beat them, and we did used to beat them. But they're so far ahead of us now that it's about not getting embarrassed for me.
But the fact we're both going shows that we believe.
Nothing else to do, is it?
Absolutely. There's a chance, but it's very unlikely. They are very good. And again, this isn't Wolves related, but I don't know if anyone watched that Arsenal-Brentford game the other night. What a game of football that was. I wish we had half the players Brentford had, because they gave them a proper game of football. They tucked in, they defended, and they broke with pace across the middle and there. We don't have that pace, so it is going to be tough. After that, Nocky, we're not going to do a show in between. There's only so many defeats we can talk about on podcast. Followed up by Sunday afternoon away at Crystal Palace, who have Jurgen Strand Larsen. For me, this game could hurt even more. We expect to lose to Arsenal, but it's going to be a bitter pill to swallow, isn't it? If Palace win and Jurgen Strand Larsen scores a couple on the weekend.
Matt Doherty made some comments a while ago about players being cowards and trying to run away in the January window. And you can, if anyone saw Strand Larsen's performance last week, he was chasing everything. He was running in behind. He was winning flick-ons. I think everything Doherty said was absolutely at Strand Larsen. I think he was 100% right because he's a different player now that he's left. We don't do well at that ground when we are playing well, do we? So to go there when we're struggling is a challenge, but they are losing games. They've not been particularly good this season. The manager, they're in a little bit of a disarray at boardroom level. So you've got to get there and try and get something, haven't you? But he's absolutely going to score. He'll get a couple of goals, I'm pretty sure.
It's just football and the rules and the way it goes. It's absolutely written. So someone said there, will he celebrate if he scores past us?
Yes, 100%.
If I'd have had the stick that he'd have had, I'd be celebrating, regardless if I was dropping or not. This is episode 156 of the Wolves Report with Mark Knock and myself, Ryan Lester. It is prediction time, Knocky, and it's your favourite part of the show. So please give me your prediction for I don't know. This is so funny.
I know what's coming.
For Wolverhampton Wanderers v Arsenal. All we've got.
It's the only reason I'm doing this at 10 o'clock on a Sunday evening from the 4-0 Arsenal.
Word. There's no need for that,
going to score. It's going to be someone like Timber in it with the first goal. It'll be someone who doesn't. Has anyone never scored for that Arsenal team? If so, chip him down for me.
The goalkeeper. My turn. I'm going to go Wolves 1, Arsenal 3. I think Wolves will somehow take the lead. We'll houser it till about the 75th minute, and then they'll just turn the screw and pump us 3-1 in the end. But that's better than what Nocky said, so we'll take that. Sunday afternoon, Nocky, Wolves go to Crystal Palace. Here we go. Who's got sneaky? Here we go.
3-0 Palace. Captain Coward with a couple of goals.
Captain Coward with a couple of goals. I'm going to go with a 1-1. I can't predict us to lose both games. I mean, we've scraped past Grimsby. We've been miserable against Forest. We've got 2 really tough games coming up. I just can't predict 2 defeats. So we'll go 1-1 and we'll say Tolu or something like that. And Strand Larsen for them, of course. One last thing before we go, Nocky. FA Cup draw tomorrow evening. It's Sunday now when we're recording the show. Thank you to Nocky for giving me Sunday evening. We just want a home game that can we win, don't we? I mean, even an away game that can win. You want an away game?
I want Mansfield away. Last time I went there in the Cup, I think we were 2-0 down. And then Lee Mills. Lee Mills, did he get a couple? And Steve, I'm sure Steve Ball scored that day and we won 3-2. And that was a really, really good away day. So, trip back to Mansfield. How old are you then, Nocky? Well, I'm only 21 now, so I was obviously quite young when that happened.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is an example of what Wolverhampton Wanderers can do to someone that follows them home and away. Yeah, I mean, I don't really mind. I just want a winnable game. I mean, they're all tough. We saw us go to Grimsby today, and that was hard. So I just want a realistic game because I'm just holding on to the fact that we could get to a semi-final, and it's a day out with all the fans, and we probably won't get past that. But it's just something, isn't it? Just something just to take away from an absolutely miserable season.
You don't want a Man City or a Chelsea or someone like that, do you? If you want a game that you can get excited about, and Mansfield, Wrexham,
you believe you've got a chance, because if you've got those other games, the fans will know in reality that'll reflect in the atmosphere. It'll reflect in social media. We aren't that team that can beat anybody anymore. We've won 1 league game, so I just want something that's going to give us a chance and some hope, and then you'll really get 1 step closer to Wembley. And that for me would just be a day out, something positive to look forward to. Nocky, as always, thank you for giving up your time and coming on the Wolves Report. As always, I I ask if you've not followed us before and you've enjoyed, drop us a like, a follow, or a share. It's much appreciated. Up the Wolves.